Andrew Friedman.
Are those chairs put the right direction and distance there? Are they too much? I'm trying to figure out how many people we could have.
You could, I mean, if you tried to do a spacing like that, we're probably looking at
12.
maybe 16 or 12 tops.
I can get close. Can you get closer than that or not?
I would think so.
You know, I don't think you have to worry, Joe.
People want to come to the meeting,
You have thousands of them lined up outside.
but you couldn't do more than 15 at the most.
They're scared of you.
Well, that's if you socially distance, but the rule, if you chose to socially distance, which it isn't a factor at this point.
You can't. So
You could, you can do whatever you want.
Call the city council regular meeting Thursday, March 18, 2021. Approximately 5 p.m. Being held here in Port Aransas City Hall, 710 West Avenue A, Port Aransas, Texas, 78373. We'll call the meeting to order and do our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
America.
To the republic
for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
liberty and justice.
Justice for all.
Who's going to do the prayer?
Ernest Pellis.
Thank you, Ernest.
We gather together here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect to all. May our personal faith give us strength to act honestly and well in all manners before us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ernest.
You can do that well.
Yeah, he does. That's great. Great.
I know he's cut down on my cursing a lot. He can hear me out there, and I don't want to hear me. I know he's not that tight. All right. Let's open this meeting up. Everybody have a copy of this?
Sure.
Yeah,
All kinds of stuff.
public hearing. Read through that quickly. Any citizen comments or reports? We get any?
No, did you do the public hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, we got to
You
read
gotta
it.
read it here.
Oh.
Sorry.
You want to read that?
I can read it.
Please.
FPLT 210284, plat of Cinnamon Shore South, Unit 4A, part of Cinnamon Shore 2, PUD, 3604 acres, being a replat of Lot 19, Mustang Island, a map of which is recorded in Volume 38, page 130 through 131. Map records of Nueces County, Texas, lots 21, 23, 24, and 28, Block 4, Cinnamon Shore Unit 1, part of Cinnamon Shore 2, PUD, a map of which is recorded in volume 69, pages 144 through 148. Map records of Nueces County, Texas, in lots 1A and 1B. Block 3, Cinnamon Shore South, Unit 2, part of Cinnamon Shore 2, PUD, a map of which is recorded in volume, we don't know the volume of pages through the pages. Maps recorded of Nueces County, Texas, applicant Mustang Island Development, Inc. Property location, 5800 Highway 361. We do not have any comments, I believe, for that.
Nothing at all.
Nothing for the public hearing.
Okay. Items consideration, ordinance A, authorizing the issuance of City of Port Aransas, Texas tax notes.
Mayor,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we have to do citizen comments, item 4.
we have some.
We have somebody in the waiting room.
Okay, go ahead.
How would you like citizen comment? No.
Hello,
Hello.
Yes, this is Stephen Grunwald with Urban Engineering.
hi, Stephen.
I don't have any public comments. I was just calling to listen in to the meeting in case there were some questions.
Oh,
Thank you.
so were there other public comments?
No, sir, that was only one in the waiting room.
All right. 5 items for consideration. Ordinance A, authorizing the issuance of the City of Port Aransas, Texas tax notes, Series 2021, levying an annual ad valorem tax within the limits prescribed by law for the payment of the obligation and other matters incident and related thereto. Darla, you gonna?
And we have Andrew and Darla.
Darla, you want to kick off and give them a quick briefing on it?
Yes, we went out today for bids for these tax anticipation notes to sell for the equipment. Remember, we've got the ladder truck, pumper, and an ambulance. And we got some great bids that Andrew's going to go over. And this will either be paid with ad valorem tax in the future when we get our tax roll to know how to calculate, or we can also take it out of operations as we've done in the past. But we got some really great rates. If you want to take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Darla. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Andrew Friedman with Samco Capital Markets on the line again. As we discussed at the last council meeting where we sold the certificates of obligation, we went back using the exact same sale type, a competitive public offering of these tax notes. And the reason we did that in this instance is the interest rates that we're getting out in the public market right now are very, very difficult to beat. Last year, this time, individual banks were able to offer lower interest rates than the public market would, as the concern of coronavirus and its impact on municipalities caused interest rates to spike. Now, kind of the inverse of that is true. Banks are not able to offer as low rates because they've got to earn some interest, and the public markets are offering just incredibly low rates. So we received 5 bids on these tax notes, the best coming from Frost Bank at a TIC, meaning true interest cost, which is roughly the average interest rate of this 7-year tax note of 0.965%. So under 1% for this financing. That's a fixed rate, matures in 7 years. So this is better than what we had expected to be able to lock in interest rates, especially when we were making, Darla and I went back and forth over the last month and a half or so, comparing the lease purchase terms against what we thought we could get when we go out and borrow on our own name. And so this really proves that out. We are going to, with your permission and approval tonight, sell these to Frost Bank, the low bidder at a competitive bid. At closing on April 14th, the city will receive $1,853,000 to be spent towards the asset purchases that you all are already briefed on and approved for at closing. And so with that, this will amortize over 7 years, be finally matured in 2028. These bear a fixed interest rate for the life of the loan. And this comes inside of the annual debt service payments that you were otherwise considering. So we're very pleased with the result, just as we were with the COs. Interest rates over the last couple of weeks have continued to trend higher. Municipal rates are trending higher as well, but not nearly as much as the 10-year Treasury bond for any of you that are out there following the markets. But still just incredibly low rates. And I'm happy to answer any and all questions that you may have. And I'm also happy to go dive into the numbers for any questions that anybody has. I don't want to walk you all through that all the way if there's not a certain level of interest there. So I turn it over to you all to answer any questions. David or Darla, if I've left anything out that I need to speak to, please correct me.
Wendy, your opinion, too.
I think it's an incredible rate. It's awesome. Great for the city. Yeah. It's good. It's a good way for us. Yeah, I think so.
And I don't have anything further.
You don't have anything else on it?
No, sir.
All right. I hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Thalmein,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Beyond.
Yes.
Motion carried.
God, that's almost like a new thing here. I didn't hear Bruce say a second.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrew.
Item B. Final plat, 200284, Cinnamon Shore South, 4A, Unit 4A. 36.04 acres, being a replat of lot 19 Mustang Island. The map of which is recorded in volume 38, page 130 through 131. Map records of Nueces County, Texas. Lots 21, 23, 24, and 28, and Block 4. Cinnamon Shore South Unit 1, part of Cinnamon Shore 2, PUD. A map of which is recorded in volume 69, pages 144 through 148. Map records of Nueces County, Texas. And lots 1A and 1B. Block 3, Cinnamon Shore South, Unit 2, part of Cinnamon Shore 2 PUD. Applicant is Mustang Island Development Incorporated. Property location is 5800 Highway 361.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. These types of plats you have seen fairly often and will probably continue to see at an accelerated pace given what the current demand for real estate and developable lots is currently. So this is part of Cinnamon Shore 2, the Cinnamon Shore Southern property. Again, just a portion that has been included in the original master plan, but had not been platted. So as you're aware, all of these large planned unit developments were designed to have a phased type construction. So this is just adding another phase to their previously approved project and platting into, like I said, into actual developable lots. All the utilities did indicate their approval with this particular plat. Our reviewing engineer found no issues with the plat other than the standard language that it needed to be recorded prior to acceptance, which is standard. Planning and zoning approved unanimously, and we recommend approval.
And they already have some houses built on that, do they not?
This is another phase for that purpose.
Well, in the south, yes. Yeah.
Right. In this particular area now, this phase, that's the purpose. So they'll be able to legally plat and sell these lots.
Comments? Questions?
On that page, get in there. Oh, man, number on the urban engineering, of course, it's got a big red. It says Recreation Civic Center, or not center, but it's just, that's a big,
Recreation.
lot
Civic.
28, block 4.
The civic area, I believe that's a retention pond.
It's a big water area.
Right. Yeah, okay. Got it.
Any other comments, questions? I hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve FPLT 210284 plat of Cinnamon Shore South, Unit 4A, part of Cinnamon Shore 2 PUD.
Second,
I'll second.
call the roll.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Jefferson Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Solomon,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Dion.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item C, discuss and take action to confirm the dune permit. BFDP 210344 is consistent with the coastal management plan. Applicants propose to construct a swimming pool and pool improvements at the rear of the residence. Applicants Dennis and Jennifer Winshfield? How do you pronounce that, anybody?
I think that's perfect.
Good enough? Proper location 5601 Highway 361, Unit 110.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So if you look at the exhibit, this is in the Gulf Waters beachfront resort condo. And I think this is a good example of a dune permit that that although there's very, very minimal impact, still has an impact to critical dunes, albeit only 8 cubic yards. But to the developer and the owner's credit, they recognize the need for a dune permit, and hence you have one before you. Even more interesting is that this is the area that's being impacted and mitigated for and compensated for is actually just an area that had previously been flattened, but was not maintained. And again, as you're aware, once that sand were to migrate and vegetate, it becomes a dune again. So like I said, so although it's a very minimal amount, it's the rear of their property, and they want to put a pool in. And again, we do appreciate their diligence, in recognizing the need for the dune permit. But that, as I've described, is what's going on. It's an area that is basically filled in, albeit a slight amount, vegetated, and by definition is a dune. So they are just asking really to remove what had once been claimed and reclaim that part. And again, it is consistent with our coastal management plan and General Land Office's comments were, other than the boilerplate requirements, were accepting of that. So planning and zoning approved, staff recommends approval.
Well, is that, the mitigation was changed where they were gonna put the dune material
Yes.
from the first? And so,
Yeah,
from the
in
first time.
both dune permits, the original one from, what was the year of the original one? Both are in your packet. It was
right,
20.
right, there were two whole,
One was, it's the revised edition.
The revised one was just because of the change in the location for the mitigation.
right.
Because the official mitigation was going to be on that lot right next to it to the north, and so they're just moving it out.
Moving it out further.
To the first part, right? And then there was I saw the comments from Urban, and then the follow-up, and it just had a comment in there. It says a letter of understanding and approval from the owner of the property where the offsite mitigation is should be produced by the applicant prior to impact and mitigation efforts in the field. Is that something that we need to name also in the motion? That was on page 140.
Right. It probably wouldn't hurt to just clarify that. In other words, yeah, they just obviously need permission for that mitigation to be placed where they're proposing. I know they've verbally done that, but we'd rather have that letter, and our reviewing engineer recognized that. So that's perfectly fine. Included it.
This is Orlando Ortiz, the engineer, and we did get an email from the board accepting the mitigation area. So we can provide that to the city if unless a letter is really required.
Yeah, that's fine. That's as long as we have correspondence that we can just annotate the file with, that'd be fine.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions? I hear a motion.
Let's see, I'll do this. Okay, item C, make a motion on item C, just action to confirm the dune permit of PFDP 210344. And also include the note on page 114 that a letter of approval from the owner of the property where the offsite mitigation is being placed should be produced by the applicant prior to impact and mitigation efforts in the field.
I'll second it.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Zalmine,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
yes,
Chairperson Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Mayor Beal.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item D, discuss and take action to confirm that no dune permit BFDP 210263 is consistent with the coastal management plan. Applicants seek to establish that no critical dunes exist on the property. Applicant is Jeannie and Brian Crow. Property location is 283 Royal Dunes. Rick?
Thank you, Mayor. This particular request involves a property that's in the Mustang Royal neighborhood unit development out south down 361. This is an area that was, again, as an established subdivision, was previously flattened, mitigated for, and fortunately has been maintained. But the fact that it falls in the 1,000-foot dune protection line still requires the determination that there are no critical dunes being impacted. And that's the application you have before you, is that determination that there are no critical dunes being impacted. Planning and zoning did approve, and staff does recommend approval as well.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
yes,
Councilmember Zalmine,
Yes.
Chairperson Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Beal.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item E is discuss and take action to confirm that the application for beachfront construction certificate BCC 210397 submitted by Nueces County as part of the no dune protection permit determination previously issued by Nueces County Beach Management Advisory Committee, BMAC, is consistent with the COP, the Coastal Management Plan. Applicant seeks to construct an observation deck on the existing pier. Applicant is Nueces County, property location 230 north on the beach, aka Forest Caldwell Pier.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish this one was as easily explained as the previous two. Not exactly. So as the background kind of lays out, there's an interlocal agreement between the city of Port Aransas and Nueces County regarding certain activities. All of the county property is subject to the dune permitting of the Beach Maintenance BMAC, Management Advisory Committee with the Nueces County that handles that. However, the Coastal Management Plan requires there also be a beachfront construction certificate issued. And the way that it's read and interpreted, that falls to the city to issue. To my knowledge, this is the first one I've been involved with where the process is bifurcated to where the county did the dune permit and we're responsible for doing the beachfront construction certificate. So we did struggle a bit, again, especially with the difficulty in just not easily communicating with coastal parks of the county and Scott. It's just, we're not in the same place and it's not as easy as when we do it in-house. But we ultimately, with the GLO's firm guidance and insistence, just really crafted a beachfront construction certificate to match up with what had already been reviewed and approved by the General Land Office. It was a no dune determination for their construction, which is the observation deck that that I think most of you are familiar with that was going on there. So like I said, we did, working with Scott, craft the beachfront construction certificate for work that was already underway, and presented to planning and zoning, who, again, with this same rambling explanation, did approve it. So that's what you have here. Just as a note, we are going to look to see if there's some way for them to just take this entire process. It just makes more sense that if they're issuing the dune permit and going through that they also enter the issue the beachfront construction certificate themselves, rather than this relying on this interlocal for us to do it. There's just too much detachment sometimes. We're not really involved in the beach management committee, so we're not as familiar. We have to just go back and see what they did. In this case, it was pretty simple. It's an observation deck. It is seaward of the erosion line. GLO's first comments back to us were to make sure that it was removable. And we did explain that it's an observation deck attached to the pier, and they surprisingly quickly apologized and corrected that. So their comments were again pretty standard. And like I said, the project is well underway. So this is, although we seek your approval, is almost a ratification of the process that's ongoing. So hopefully that complicated explanation makes it a little
We
clearer.
wouldn't have any other beachfront construction permits anywhere, right? I mean,
No.
And if we weren't
way.
to approve it, what would happen then?
Especially since it already started.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is
Then I can just simply pass the buck to the elected officials.
All right, could I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve certificate BCC 21-0397 submitted by Nueces County for the no dune permit determination.
Okay, second,
I'll second.
call the roll.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Chairperson Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Solomon,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Mayor Villa.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We can't even see council. There she is.
She's following the agenda, so I had to shrink it a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, item F is a resolution adopting an amendment to the 2020 fee schedule. Last adopted October 15, 2020. By amending building and development fees, adding a new line for short-term rental regulation, annual registrations, and providing for severance and setting effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. So this, we have talked about in months past about the fact that really we believe we're just missing out with the rapid explosive growth of short-term rentals and the almost impossible ability of staff to keep up with the research needed to find the violators and then once found to pursue it. It's a complicated process that again relies on us and finance and attorneys to once found it to track down. So it's like I said, as we've talked about, what we're proposing here tonight is that we set a fee that I almost want to speak to it as an initial fee, to consider it almost an initial fee, because we really need to we've got several different companies that we've looked at. The prices vary. They're all expensive. But in the research we've done, and that we'll do more diligently should this pass, again, if we have the budget to do this, then we'll be able to find what level of service will get us the most bang for the buck. Our fees, as you guys know, have been extremely low for the time that the short-term rental has been in place since 2016. It was never intended to remain at that initial level. And I can probably say that with staff time and the work we've done, probably even the staff time hasn't really even equaled what we've taken in between the software that we have been modifying and using, to what we've been collecting. So I say this as an initial fee because of this. So we went around the state, and honestly, there's very few cities we could find within the state that had the same explosive growth. There was a lot of places that were doing short-term rental, but they didn't have the type of growth necessarily that we've been seeing, nor did they have a lot of the same dynamics as far as that explosive growth being in an established community that had long-term as well. So we looked at it, as much as I hate to compare anything to Austin, they were a good place to start. And so Austin, for example, for the first year that you register a short-term rental, has a $567 fee. And then on an annual basis thereafter, $310. New Braunfels, which surprisingly is very similar in dynamic to us, an old established community that's now had this influx of rentals going on, they have a $206 initial fee and then $128 thereafter. And then you go on, and there's various cities. We went and looked at Florida actually to find something that was again similar. And you go everywhere from $675 initial, $375 annual on down. So we looked at what we thought would quite honestly be more than enough to create the seed money to get this started. And with every expectation that in the coming years, if we couldn't demonstrate that amount was needed to sustain the project, then would absolutely reduce that. As we were pondering all of this, legislation got introduced that would mandate that happens. If the legislation were to pass, there's legislation right now that simply says is that a municipality can charge up to a $475 annual fee. However, they can't use it as a profit center. So it has to be justifiable to sustain the short-term rental registration, enforcement, collection, et cetera. So that's, like I said, that's the figure that we've used. That again, I will tell you that we fully expect after the first year, when we've really selected the vendor, and that's a process that Darla and her team, again, because of the input and the impact it has to the accounting, our folks who's kind of been on the front line as far as the registering, will work together to determine. I guess I'll kind of shut up there and just see.
Well, it sounds like you think it's too low to begin with. So why did you come up with that number?
I really don't. We looked around and we think that will give us, again, we're already partway into the year. Like I said, but that'll give us a pretty good idea. And I think that what we've seen, that will be sufficient. With the ones we've seen, with the companies out there that we have reviewed, and they're coming on quickly too. Is this phenomenon spreads across the country? Right. Short-term rentals, more and more entries are getting into that for the management and the enforcement and the collection. So, but what will happen is that the cost savings will be with staff time and everything else. So there'll be those savings that will offset the others. That's why I'm saying I think that once we get into it and we have a full year, we may actually find that we can reduce it back. We may not have a choice if the legislation passes. It may be that it's not an income revenue stream for the city. No matter what, it becomes much like our building permit. Building permits in that operation has to be, revenue neutral as best it can be. So,
yeah, I just said, okay, it took 3,000. Let's say we had 3,000 permits, and before it was $50 a permit, and that was over 2 years. But so just took that number, 3,000 times 50, that's 150K divided by 2. So annually, you're looking at a cost of about $75K. If you take the 3,000 times $175, that's $525,000. So that's a good.
It's a good chunk. And again, it sounds like a huge jump, but again, as we go to the outsource,
you need it.
A huge part of that goes directly to that third party company. Now the trick will be, will the collections and the enforcement match up to justify that, which we probably won't know for a year, but everyone that we've visited with and that we've looked at has indicated that it will.
Is there a way, Darla, you know, from a financial standpoint, I was just trying to look through the numbers today real quick and just, so you take these permits in 525K. Is there a way we can show that separately, or like you do the beach, to where at some point, you know, where we can see that, where it's coming in, and then whatever we're offsetting for cost, and as we go down this journey, itemizing it out and tracking it?
Yes, I can always report it to you separately. It is, the financials that I give y'all are
I've learned, you showed me that.
summary
You got
basis.
a
So
lot.
I have that account.
Yes,
Last
sir.
year, short-term rental registration, we got $26,650. And this year, year-to-date, we've gotten, I just pulled it up, 11,550 from October to March. So yes, I mean, it's substantially different, but that's our biggest problem of keeping track of it has been a biannual basis of maintaining it versus an annual basis. That's what's definitely been killing us administratively.
So doing the 12-month will help.
Oh,
Great.
we cannot administer an every other year.
Right.
program. It's
And
just
that was the
not-
thought process for why.
It's not feasible.
What we did ultimately decide, and I talked to Mike Morris about it. So all the renewals that we had been doing, really just up until recently, based on all we had, which was an ordinance that was really obsolete until you recently approved the change. Mike said that we could go back because we were, by renewing them for 2 years at $50, the 2 years really wasn't consistent with what the ordinance said. The new registrations, though, for people that were newly registering for 2 years, it just didn't smell right to go back and change that on them. So we're not going to do any harm to those. If they registered for 2 years, then that 2 years will honor that. Sure. But the way the ordinance also reads is that we don't think that we're going to lose a whole lot because we didn't allow any proration during any part of the calendar year. So if they expire December, you know, they will have gotten a year, maybe a little longer free ride, but come December, they'll owe, and that's where the piper will be paid. And then come January, they'll owe. And you know, like I said, unless you direct us otherwise, the argument though is that you didn't pay for the 2 years. So, you know, like I said, there'll be some that actually come out a little bit ahead, but most everybody will get caught in that no proration calendar year. And we'll just simply have to explain that, well, you got a free ride for a year and a half. Sure. And that's, like I said, you know, unless we get directed otherwise, that is kind of our plan, because we're not going to go back and just, if they register for 2 years, then we should honor that at $50. But
you're still going to make everybody register at the beginning of next year, regardless of whether they register today or
not the ones that registered legitimately and honestly for a 2 year period.
So when are you going to pick them up? 2 years from now?
When they expire, which will be sometime in the middle of that year. And again, with there not being any proration.
That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? You're not tracking them properly then. That's crazy. You're not.
They'll register the beginning of the year after that.
I know, but I mean, you're defeating the purpose of the whole program is to get everybody online. Give them a credit. I mean, if you want to, if it's about money, but make everybody, whether they registered last month or by the time we get this on, make everybody get back on the train again at the beginning of the year so that you have an accurate account of how many short-term rentals you have. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to enforce any of this stuff because we're giving them a pass for 18 months.
Well, maybe, but when we looked at it, and I don't disagree, it was, you know, the renewals were easy because we shouldn't have been renewing. That was already in violation of the ordinance. You know, the ordinance said after the first 2 years, it's an annual. So that was a mistake. Mike said, you made a mistake. You can go back and at January 1, they pay again for the renewals. It was the ones that have registered in the last few months.
Yeah, and there's probably a good handful. No?
Not as many as are coming up. Not as many as are coming up. Mike just said it would be a little bit more difficult, although he didn't say impossible to do that.
Let's just do that. Let's just make everyone register, but give them a break on the fee.
Yeah.
The ones that have paid for.
The other thought, we would give them back. We'd refund the entire. Of course, it was only we didn't refund their entire registration fee and go to a calendar year. I mean, that was our original plan, and then it just.
I'll give them their $50 back or whatever, or give them
$50
a year.
Well, no, give them the whole $50 back in return for 175 at the first of the year.
I mean, I don't want to make it complicated for you guys, but I mean, I understand
That
the
would be-
monetary part.
that
Right?
would be
We want to
preferable.
collect money, but I mean, we need everybody on the plan.
We just want to make sure, and that's what I pitched to council last time, but there'll be people that complain and said, I registered for 2 years.
We got some properties that'll be coming on mid-year. And so I'm sure when we have to pay our permit fees, it'll be 175 per unit.
Correct.
So we're going to pay those 6 months. And then if it comes up in December, we're going to pay again
That's fine.
starting the next year.
We
that's
prefer that
how
as long as we have council support. That would be a better solution for us. Although we might get some pushback for those that legitimately thought they registered for 2 years.
Do you know how many that you've already had registered? What you said was very small, minimal amount. What are we looking at? Like,
I think it seemed like it was around 200.
okay. So 200 people need to either get refunded and caught up, but I agree having everyone on the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't, because that's just going to make it complicated down the road.
Yeah, we need to get everyone.
I can tell you, that would be our preference.
That's what the council tells you to do.
That's what I thought.
Just give them the $50 rebate.
And that was our concession that we thought.
Yeah.
And anybody that was in that 2 year
From
period,
50 even going to 50 to 175, it is extremely low of what they're collecting in short-term rentals.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
we
I agree.
have to be able to collect the funds and be organized enough as a city to get everyone accountable in short term and start getting and paying in with this program to be able to catch the people that are not paying any hotel tax here.
Yeah, we agree. That's fine. We'd prefer that. If we got your support, then that's what we'll do.
And the purpose too was also that gives you guys that have to come in and do the process, and y'all can enforce the requirements that they're supposed to meet.
So we're gonna make everyone register at the beginning of the year.
January 1, everybody
And the
registers.
people that have paid the $50, we'll give them a prorated monthly value. How's that sound?
Or we'll just give them back their entire fee.
Well, there's 233 that have registered this fiscal year. 11,650 divided by 50, 233
Have registered?
New,
that have paid.
New.
And
are those new?
I can't.
So
say
just
that.
charge
Some of those
them,
are
charge them
renewal.
125,
Yeah, when they
Yeah.
come in
right?
to
Give
register.
them a $50 discount.
Because-
One in a
How
corner.
many short-term rentals do we have?
I think we have 1,100 registered thus far.
Okay, but
Total,
Maybe.
registered.
That's registered.
probably
Just registered.
registered.
How many short-term rentals do we have operating in Puerto Rico?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah, we were approaching 3,000.
Trying to find out.
Yeah,
That's what we're trying to find out.
Hurricane Harvey, Mayor, it was almost at 3,000 registered.
Right.
When we first started the program, we almost were at 3,000.
And my point is that, we're doing these fees and so forth. Let's find out
Well,
how many there are.
that'll be the other,
That's what the money's
I mean,
going to be used for.
that's what this will be able to tell us.
Yeah, if they register.
That's what the money will be used
they
for.
may
No,
not
to hire this company to
But-
go find them.
Well, one thing this company does, Mayor, is they scour
They check out.
VRBO, Airbnb, they look at ads.
Okay. I want them all found.
Right.
That's what
That's
this
what I-
company will do.
And their fee is structured to where they're incentivized to find them.
I know short-term rentals that are not registered.
There's a bunch.
All right. So again, just to be clear, so everyone registers January 1. Those that have registered, those that have newly registered, then will get the entire $50 registration fee refunded, but be back on track for the 175 less the $50 they've already paid.
Correct. Right. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, whatever's easier. If you want to give them the whole $50 credit, great.
Just as
If
easy
it's
to-
easier, then yeah, prorating, it's
And that's
$50.
starting January 1st, 2022.
Yeah.
Very
And
good. I like
anybody
it.
from now on is 175.
Correct.
Yes.
And so from now on, after we approve this, that'll be like Monday morning, someone comes in.
It's effective
175.
immediately.
Okay. And then they'll pay again, 175 in January.
Right.
Right. Okay. Just making sure we're all clear. It's a small price to pay.
Really is.
Yeah, the nightly rental rates, Chuck can probably speak to it even better than I, but we know that the nightly rental rates have increased just significantly. So this is a small cost of doing business, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's always been that thing, with the occupancy and the taxes and being involved in this.
All right, well, thank you for your spot. That's what would have been our preference, so.
Okay. That's the resolution right here.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second it.
Do we have to put that other part in there?
No.
Okay.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonneline,
Yes.
Mayor Tim Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Briam.
Yes.
Motion carries.
G is a resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with the Coastal Bend Council of Governments for mutual aid, disaster assistance by and between participating members and directing city manager to sign said document. And my question on, is this yours, Rick?
Yes, sir.
My question on this, is Corpus Christi included in this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Then where were they when we had the fire down here?
They were here
No, they weren't.
for the house fire.
No. They were not. I got an apology just the other day from the mayor of Corpus Christi for them not being.
I thought they were there.
Yeah, because they came from their substation down the road.
On La
With,
Concha.
They had a tower truck there.
And the mayor over there doesn't know what she's talking about.
No,
Yeah, they were.
'Cause they were there.
late,
They were late.
about 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
later.
Okay. I'll
uh,
have to remind her of that.
what was Annabelle doing? They were there early.
Yeah, those are very early.
Yeah.
right. So again, this is just an interlocal agreement, and it's I don't know where our other one when it lapsed, but this takes all the incorporated, unincorporated, jurisdictions within the 12 counties that represent the Coastal Bend Council of Governments. And it's just an agreement that will help each other out in a disaster. There's a provision for reimbursement of expenses if necessary. But the bottom line is it's just an agreement that says we're going to help each other out when called upon and be helped when we call out for help. It's really quite just as simple as that.
What's the terms? So we didn't know that it expired, or we didn't know, I'm just curious of what, so we go into
I
this
don't think this one
agreement.
has, like I said, I think this one talks about until term, once approved by each party, and continue, and just shall continue in force until such time that they terminate it.
Can it be something that where it could be revisited every year? Something that we have is just to make sure it's in place and we
Well,
have the.
Fortunately, that's exactly what the COG did, and obviously we weren't the only one, so it wasn't just us. It just kind of fallen through, and then sometimes there's technical changes to the laws, indemnifications and protections that are afforded, and so some of the language just needs to be tweaked. Again, as is proposed right now, there's some legislation that may limit the governor's power in an emergency.
Sure, no, I get it. I just was thinking when you made the comment about it, just not knowing when it expired, but then having some sort of, we're agreeing to it, but it's what for what terms, how long, and I guess I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, I think until that we ask to be removed, which I don't see would be likely. In a great example, with or without this particular understanding, I mean, immediately a day after the hurricane, we had an incident management team from Corpus Christi Fire Department here that literally were here through the whole, and just assisted with our management of the incident. So that's a great example of what what this could be.
I think being in place is perfect. I'm just saying, if I'm not sitting here after May, whatever, somebody that's sitting here, it gets them back in front of them again, just to make sure that everybody knows that this is in place. And that was all I was just concerned with. But
where are you thinking going in May?
Well, somebody might beat him. You have somebody running against you, don't you?
Yeah, the way that it's worded, it's until you request until you request withdrawal, you're in.
Okay.
So what happened? Why are we having to renew it then? If we're in and you're in till you're out, then why are we having to look at it again?
Ratification. Just, again, the council government sent it out. I thought, it's,
Did they add?
it's a valuable interlocal. I
Yeah,
couldn't
that's
see
what I wondered.
anything, like
I
I
mean,
said,
To
sometimes the
Chuck's
different.
point, if there's no time and we're in already, then why are we?
Well,
Sounds like
sometimes
that,
like
like you said, all
there's
the-
changes to the Texas Government Code, the different chapters that pertain to disaster, like in the first one, like those things change periodically, and they may just want to be covering that. There may be one that's outstanding still that this supersedes.
I would have thought it would have been, okay. Well, yeah, like your point, it would have been something, okay, we're updating. There's been amendments to it, whatever.
Okay, motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All roll.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Zalmai,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Bia.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I think I am done. Just pop back.
Out of curiosity, can we get a copy of the original that we can compare this one to just to see where it did change?
I answer that. Yeah, I
Right,
understand.
okay.
He nodded.
No, I'll give it the cog and get whatever this supersedes.
Just a moment, folks.
Okay.
Okay, item number, item H is a resolution designating a public newspaper, an alternative newspaper, to serve as the official newspaper of the city of Fort Aransas, Texas for 2021, and providing that each ordinance, notice, or other matter relating by law or ordinance to the public, be published therein. Rick?
Oh, no, I'll do this one. So we only had one response. We do want to get this back on schedule though. So this will be this will be an appointment through the end of September because according to the ordinance, it states that we're supposed to make the selection at the beginning of the October budget so that it coincides with the budget. So we'll do this one that we select now for the next, the 6-month period ending into September. And then we'll bring this item back to you guys and get it back on schedule in accordance with the ordinance.
This says that we received rate sheets from the island.
Well, we got their rate sheet, but we asked them to officially respond and we did not get an official response.
We didn't get anything from the
Caller. No, sir, we did not. So in accordance with the charter and the city ordinance, we select this once a year.
We have to have.
Well, South Jetty.
Yeah, we do need one. We do need an, yeah, state law requires us to have an official newspaper. Now, there are several House bills that come up every cycle, and there are some that try to go paperless, and they are, we've seen them almost every year. I think I remember always seeing them. There's more this cycle at the 87 legislation. I've already read 3 or 4 of them where, they attempt to suffice your publication notice via your webpage or some other electronic posting. So they try to do that pretty much every session.
So we have basically one
response. Yes, sir.
That's South Jack.
Yes, sir. And their rates are included in your packet. State law says it's the lowest classified published rate, or lower, which means I guess technically they could go lower, but so that is submitted in your packet.
So we need to make a motion to approve.
No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
What?
Thank you.
Oh,
And this will come back up in September, you said?
Yeah, we'll bring it back in the September council meeting so that it's in place for October 1.
When we do the budget.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this ordinance that we have, it basically is saying that we want a newspaper that reports all of it, not just part of it.
Well, the state law says that the paper must, let me read it. It says there's some qualifiers. State law says it must devote not less than 25% of its total column lineage to general interest items, so which would be, items of general interest, be published at least once a week, be entered as a second-class postal matter in the county where published, which it is, and have been published regularly and continuously for at least 12 months before the entity publishes notice. So of course they've met that one because they've been around a long time. So
that's all it says.
Right. So it has to be a paper that, to answer your question, devotes not less than 25% of its total column lineage to general interest items.
Wonder what that means.
General interest items.
what's going on at the school, what's going on
Yeah,
at
I
the
think,
churches,
yeah.
what the news is on the front page.
Yeah.
I really don't understand why we wouldn't just say that South Jetty would be first and then pick one of the other ones for an alternate.
Well, I think let's don't pick I would recommend not picking an alternate. That way it gives us a little leeway to shop around, because some of them have different due dates for their ads. So sometimes when we're in a pickle and we have like a special meeting or something, we need to be able to figure out which one works best with our time date and getting an ad in. So it might be the caller times, it might be somebody else, but so I would just recommend not picking a backup at this point. Just pick your number one. Just pick your first choice.
I make a motion to pick the Port Aransas South Jetty.
I second it.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Huberton Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Solomon,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes,
Mayor Brian.
Abstain.
Motion carried.
you don't like it? Guess I shouldn't say anything. Sorry.
Chief, you want to sit here for your report?
I won't make you that.
Want me to pull it up for reference? Here it is right here, Chief.
So could you theoretically have several computers out there with cameras and have people different places, right? Theoretically. I'm just trying to figure out how things might work. Yeah. Right. Right.
Mayor, Council, you have in front of you a copy of the 2020 Racial Profiling Report. This is an annual report that's required by state law to be published every year and submitted to the Texas Commission on law enforcement, and there's also a requirement that we provide a copy to y'all. So what you have in front of you is a copy of what we submitted to TCOL to meet the annual racial profile requirements.
Compared to 2019, looked like your total was 2789. This year's 2025, so a little bit less.
Now remember, this year we had several months where the beach was closed to traffic, and so the numbers are lower, sure, because the circumstances were different. I don't have to report we didn't find any evidence of racial profiling.
Of what?
Of racial profiling.
Yeah. That's good.
Oh.
We don't need that.
I like the report. I like it looks different this year, so it's very informative.
Yeah, the legislative requirements changed,
Okay.
and so the report meets the new legislative requirements. It used to be we just had to publish raw numbers, and now we actually have to do an analysis as part of the publication. So, and hopefully next year we'll have a little bit better. We've been working with our vendor, and we thought we had everything lined out right. And literally on the 27th, 28th of February, we were still trying to get the bugs worked out of their program. So,
no.
Good.
Thank you.
So everything's good, huh?
Everything's there.
Further reports are good.
Yeah, we meet the law requirements.
How's the police officers holding up and everything, Chief?
Right now, or compared to last summer?
Well, let's do that in your police report.
Okay.
We'll stay on top.
Okay. Yep.
I make a motion accepting the 2020 racial profiling report for the city of Port Aransas Police Department.
I'll second.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Item J is a presentation and general discussion from Brodas and Associates on Hurricane Harvey recovery.
Yes,
Shoot.
thank you. So this is the report we submitted. The debris removal, we're happy to report that last final amendment has been submitted. FEMA got the drain catch basins incorporated, so that's nearing completion for everything now. Fire station, FEMA this week requested a couple meetings times for us to get with them on a call to further the scope and cost negotiations. So we're working with some dates now. City Hall and the community center, we submitted the cost and final report to FEMA from a request for information. So they have that actually has those projects moving forward for the first time in a while as far as the paperwork goes. Charlie's Pasture, Bulkhead, Shirley and Sons. Just skipped a little bit on you, Francisco, but they're nearing completion. Hopefully this week with some wrap up next week. And we have the 75% drawings for the next phase. And we have also requested the money of the first phase to raise the bulkhead for the extra feet. So that's all in and moving forward. Then with the piers, we have that NIMS is scheduled to give us their report by April, so we can start construction. We do have the bids and everything waiting for the regulation from EHP to be released. Gas system, high pressure. We have the high pressure line and the regulator stations that bids in. FEMA has this week notified us the amendment for that money has been obligated for $6.5 million. That letter came in Tuesday, and the contract documents in the pre-construction meetings forthcoming on that one. think that's it.
Thank you for the reports in this packet. It was very informative, be able to sit and be able to read and look at all this. I do have a question in reference to the fire station, and I know public safety, where it talks about, with the public safety building, FEMA has withdrawn from our request for arbitration to further evaluate, basically, so it sounds like they're slowing down again.
Well, what they've done is they've said, hey, we don't have it. The judges read both our case and their case, and the judge panel asked us to, come back to the table and look again. They didn't feel like there was enough evidence from FEMA to make a official opinion on, and we have been doing that for the last few weeks. They did agree to the elevation on that project. They agreed to a lot of the rooms now, square footage wise. This week we had a setback. We're working on clarification with the 5 foot for the common area, but it's basically allowing us to submit more documentation for them and them to do a better job reviewing it. If it lasts too much longer, then we would just pick the arbitration up like we have in the past. But the panel asked us to do this.
When do you think we might get to that point?
On what they're going to give us, or going back to arbitration?
Well, just saying, all right, we're done with you guys. We're going to go back to arbitration.
I think on how they respond to this week, by our call next Tuesday, we'll go one way or the other.
Yeah, because Wednesday's call was pretty dismal.
It was a step backwards. We did supply the attorney per his request today the meeting minutes that recorded those agreements and everything. And those meeting minutes have been shared with FEMA. And so they were right after the calls. There was no rebuttal. So Charles is working on that right now, and Mike Gaffney's been in constant contact with him.
So additional documentation. I know you guys have provided all kinds of documentation. It's just amazing what else they could want except this delay.
I agree. I mean, we've tried every way. We did the same thing with the gas system. We sent an email Friday. I mean, we're providing it any way they ask, just so we don't get pushed back. But it's new team again, as y'all have heard a million times, and we're trying to push some of these. Thank gosh, have been pushed forward a lot better than last year this time.
And the fire station's pretty much in the same
Yes,
scenario.
If we go back to arbitration with the public safety, it's the same arguments. It's the cost of construction, which just keeps getting compounded by the cost of materials, plus the square footage for codes and standards. Same argument, both projects.
Keep on them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
That's really the only thing we're stuck on.
That's just the same process.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay. Item 8. General discussion and possible action on resuming in-person city council and boards and commission meetings. Who's talking on that?
Well, I'll lead off. So currently, the latest governor's COVID-19 declaration, it still is continuing his stance on public meetings. It gives you guys the opportunity. Basically, you guys can do whatever you guys choose.
So,
I mean, you guys. I mean, he's
public meetings is what? None. That's what his stance is.
Well, his stance is that if cities want to continue the Zooming and remote, then he is affording them that decision, if that's the way they choose to go.
He's not going all the way.
But it's not a mandate where he's saying you have to keep Zooming your meetings.
All right.
So it's up to you guys. You guys could.
But if you open it, then what kind of control?
You guys could do. You guys could basically do a hybrid. You guys could limit the number by, I don't even know how, do you want the same 20 people to get in every single meeting? Do you want to rotate it? I mean, you could say, let's set out 50 chairs, let's set out 20 chairs, let's have it open to, X amount of people per agenda item, and you shuffle people in and out. I mean, really the sky's the limit on,
Why don't we just open it up?
Go back to pre-COVID.
Yeah, what's, everybody's running around without a mask now?
Or
Well,
not social distancing? I think people are. Social distancing.
it depends. You're seeing, like IGA, I think they've changed their sign to it's requested, right? They did change it, right? It used to say mandate.
It's not mandating.
Right. So different businesses are, like I drove up to College Station last weekend, all the gas stations all the way up, through Victoria and Hallettsville, they all still had masks. I mean, all the stores in College Station, people were still in masks. I mean, so it's kind of, HEB still in masks.
How many, today, for example, or yesterday, how many in Nueces County have COVID? Just yesterday.
I haven't looked. I think the overall statewide, what statewide vaccinations up to? Is it 6 million?
Yeah. 78 or 87 or something like that.
But I think the medical people are still saying that you should social distance and be careful with people that you're not
Oh, yeah.
usually with.
I mean, is this something that we can look at each month as this process goes? So in other words, we say, okay, maybe put 6 chairs for 6 feet in and, or do what we can to take preventive measures and then just see what happens, what the turnout is. I'm sure there could be, we don't have to pick the same people every time, but I mean, usually.
You could do something, you could do something where you had open citizen comments and you streamed one citizen in at a time and let them do a citizen comment period, but then they left after that. You could queue them up 6 feet apart out the door and they could come in and do citizen comments, and maybe you don't have anyone sitting. Maybe the only one sitting is people who are with an agenda item. Like if you have a dune permit or something, maybe the owner and the engineer come in. Or if you have a subdivision, maybe the plat guy comes in, and you could have public comments, one person at a time. They come in, then they leave. So you could do a bunch of different ideas.
I mean, my personal thoughts here is I like the idea of citizen comments streamlining one at a time, that they have to sign up, but then after when they talk, they leave. But then also given the option of like the engineers that have the subdivisions questions, it is, I think all of us have discovered after COVID that Zoom and that it is a good thing to have that they could do also online where they don't have to be in person and be there for 2 hours.
Yeah, the engineers and the subdividing and the city's banking, I think that's all worked really good over Zoom.
Yep.
The citizen comments is just, it's hard. It's too hard.
Really not work.
And I think
and I agree. And I think that having that opportunity for citizens to come in person and talk, I think that's great. Because that gives them an opportunity to hear, and us to hear their voice, because it is hard on Zoom.
If we do that, and I am encouraging that, allowing people to come back and speak in person. And I do think continuing to have a Zoom meeting for those extra people. I mean, just like, Mark McCliney or Andrew. I mean, there's no reason for those people to drive down there. That's so inefficient. But would we still allow citizen comments to be Zoomed, or would that only be in person? So in other words, if somebody wanted to come and make a comment, maybe they're from Austin, but they owned a home here, would they be allowed?
Yeah, I think you still leave it open.
If they wanted to do it.
Yeah, if they still want to do Fran and call in, do that. But if they want to.
We haven't had much though, have we?
No, you're right. We haven't. But I mean.
But yeah.
But if they want to come and queue up and bring them in one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to have the adaptability and flexibility to allow the in-person one at a time, but then also, on Zoom and more of a hybrid.
And then maybe by May, you can open it up,
We on, according to what I just saw, there was only 31 cases.
Today?
Today.
Yeah, it was 20 something yesterday.
Well, I know we have about 900 waiting for their first shot in Port A, and there's people still waiting for that second round coming through.
What are those numbers, Rick? I mean, do we have another list of people that haven't had anything?
Yeah, we're approaching 1,000 on the pre-registration list.
Right.
For their first shot.
So I would think,
Rumblings about a week.
I would think by the next meeting that those first doses would have gone out, and a lot of people would have gotten their second doses already. We're kind of coming over that.
So by
So
May,
so the
for sure.
550 people we treated, we vaccinated, say 17 or 18. On average, they're getting it 29, 33 days, I think, is from the second shot. So I know that allocation is already ordered in the queue. So like I said, we're still really pushing for that next first vaccine shot. Yeah, sorry.
But that's important to try to understand what we're going to do.
No, do you wish to do?
This is Edward with the EMS. We've had that survey up on the city website since the start of this, and in total we've had about 1,500 sign up, and out of that 1,500, about 550 that we got the first dose to, and so hopefully by April 1st we'll get them their early April they'll get their second dose, and then with other subsequent allocations for the first dose we'll get just keep the process going and take care of those 900 to 1,000 that are still remaining.
What would you folks, what do you want to do?
Well,
I don't care.
I think I like the idea of letting people come in and make comments, one by one, and slowly, see how that works. Mm-hmm. Not invite everybody in yet. That's what I like.
How long would that take, though? If you invite
3 minutes each.
I mean, it's like we normally had.
Invite one in at a time, or
one in at a time.
Yeah, but they'll be right there.
Queued up and stream them in, and
so they wait out in the.
We space them out, like tell them the social distance in the lobby or out front.
Oh, you can do it all the way in the door.
Yeah, I mean, usually we don't have. I mean, for a huge contentious item, you might have 20 people, 30 people speak, but on any typical meeting, it's 2 to 5 people. I mean, it's not a huge.
And most of the time, I mean, in the 6 years that I've been sitting here now, you may have 20, 30 people at most during citizen comments. And then as we get into the meat of the agenda, they all leave, unless there is one item that they want to listen to. But I mean, no one stays till the end. So
a couple do.
Well, a couple maybe. But no, of course, Chief. But I mean, very rarely do you have this gallery of people. Sorry, Chief, but you're not the contentious thing they want to hear about.
I'd also like to make sure that they can come in if they're commenting on a specific item. They're allowed to come back in as well, just like the.
Well, then you're opening the meeting.
Well,
because number one, council. Number one. Speaking during a council agenda item isn't a guarantee.
No.
That's not
when you sign up to speak. You
speak during public comments. You're not, letting someone speak during an agenda item is you guys are allowing that. That is not state law.
But I think it's important to hear what they have to say.
It depends. There's a bunch of councils that don't take public comment during an agenda.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I think
that's a rarity.
What? Yeah.
I was just going to comment on that too. I think at this point, letting in the beginning where it is citizen comment, that is going to be the time. If they have a comment on an agenda item, they need to do it in the beginning. I mean, we have always been lenient and let people talk during an agenda item, but in reality, most cities, they have just that particular time in open, in citizen comment. And I think for right now, that's the way it should be. And we have a lot to discuss, as we all have been spent 5 hours plus in some of these city council meetings. So, I mean, I think it will be good if we could just streamline it a little better in the beginning.
Right, I agree. I think so, just to start off, and then we can gradually get back to.
I mean, you might only do this a month and a half and then just say,
Right,
heck with it.
exactly. Right.
And I like having the professionals, the ones that have to sit here, like the legal entities that have driven 2 hours and sit for 2 hours. If they want to do it, we can offer it electronically to help.
Now that we've got Zoom down, there's no reason to take it away. I think it's.
No, I don't think so either. I think Zoom works great for a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Really makes
And you lie in any of those?
more efficient.
Yeah. And cheaper.
Okay.
So it sounds like we're just next meeting, allow citizens to come in for citizen comments.
Correct.
Have them social distance and try that out.
In the
and see
lobby
how-
and come in one at a time.
Well, couldn't they be all the way into the front?
No, you'd want them right at the door
Okay.
and you'd
Okay,
keep
so
and
Dave, how are we going to handle for the last minute? I didn't sign up. I'm not here on time. How is that going to work out?
as long as we're in and they're coming up to the door, you let them. I think you try to accommodate all of them. I mean, you're eventually going to get to the end of the line.
Yeah, but they can't show up at 6:30 and
No.
say, you know.
They got to
I
be
did-
here
yeah.
at the beginning of the meeting, like always.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, at least for the next month or
Yeah.
maybe even 2 months, but we can change as we go.
Well, how about we'll just keep putting this agenda item on and we'll kind of put it down at the bottom of the agenda and you guys can, each month you can just bring it up, tweak it.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we need to keep it fluid. Yep.
So we don't need to make any, we're just gonna let.
No, we don't, just direct staff.
Okay.
Yeah, general discussion, said possible action. So just what we talked about.
Yeah.
Citizens come in
Yep.
for comments next meeting. We'll reevaluate.
And then
later.
we'll do them also by call in if they so choose.
Okay, what's our next item?
Yeah.
Port of Corpus Christi, L.
L.
Yep.
Item what? G?
5L.
H?
It's L.
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 5JKL.
L.
Item L is a discuss and take action to opt out of the Port of Corpus Christi Authority proposed legislation for 2021. What is that?
So in your packet, Mayor and Council, and I believe it should be in your packet, is the ports. I don't think it has a number at this point, but it's the proposed port legislation that grants the port. What it does in essence is it grants the port. Right now, the port is restricted to industrial, light, heavy. I don't know what the exact term is, but they are restricted in what their uses are allowed. This proposed legislation would grant the port additional uses. And if you look at the third page of the bill, item B, it lists those uses out: job creation, retention, economic development, industry, commerce, manufacturing, housing, recreation, infrastructure, installation. Now, some of those, the majority of those are probably already under the port's allowed uses by the state. Some that aren't are, like, for example, the housing. Not so sure, probably recreation is not, housing is not. Light commercial, like retail, stuff like that, that is not currently allowed. So that's what this bill is, that's what they're seeking in this bill. I do know several, if not many, of the coastal bend communities have either selected to opt out or oppose the bill. I think recently Corpus did that. I know some of the San Patricio County cities have. So really, you guys have that same decision to make. You guys can opt out. I think motion wise, I think you have a couple choices. You could request the port that they opt you out of the bill. If they don't opt you out, you could oppose the bill, or you could just oppose the bill.
Well,
So
I've done,
you have the choices so you have a couple different paths.
done a little background in the navigation district legislation. Says that all properties of the navigation district are for public purposes, meaning they're non-taxable. But they're limited to navigation only, whatever navigation is. But certainly it's not any of these things he just mentioned. In fact, now they want to be a land developer and do a lot of different things. So they're getting a whole lot of pushback from City of Corpus Christi, from a lot of areas, Ingleside. And so I'm not sure where they stand with it right now, but they're still trying to go for it. And one of the big pushbacks is that, the city loses all the tax base when they do that, take up a business cause, that they can't do ordinance control and possible ordinance and zoning. All those kinds of things are issues with the port having the land and developing it, as well as the loss of the tax base. So sounds pretty bad to me. So I don't see any positive aspect of it.
Well, the only positive thing, and I'll bring it up because I want you guys, I'm not saying I'm in favor or disfavor, is that if you ever wanted another option on Harbor Island, another use, currently the zoning on Harbor Island, we allow for light manufacturing. This is what their uses of the property are. It would change because the only thing that hampers that is that the owner is the port on one portion of that of Harbor Island. So the uses are any lawful non-dwelling, non-residential use. So there can't be any housing on Harbor Island, number one. Light manufacturing is allowed, marine terminals, storage facilities, and/or oil and/or gas, shipyards, fabrication, cruise ship, gaming ship terminal, which probably is, I don't know if that's a navigation use. Research and testing laboratories, communication towers, concrete, asphalt, batch plants, seafood processing, packing, storage, dwellings for a caretaker, dredge, so those are the uses currently permitted
By us.
by the city of Port Aransas.
On either side of Harbor Island.
On any portion of Harbor Island. If the city is looking for uses on Harbor Island other than industry, then you guys need to do two things. You need to change your ordinances to allow other uses such as commercial, retail, residential. Residential is an issue because there's a lot of contamination. I know that, so I'm just throwing it out there. There's areas that are not contaminated, but you would have to, if you guys wanted to see something other than industry on Harbor Island, you would need to change the Harbor Island zoning district uses to give a landowner more opportunities to do something other than industry. Or you can keep it the way it is and hope that industry doesn't come, fight industry that comes. I don't know, but eventually something gets built over there that probably a lot of people don't like.
What about that research? I like that.
Well, the research one's good. There's a couple good ones that people could probably live with. a lot of the heavy industrial stuff, I don't think many people really want it over there
No,
or
of course
desire
not.
it.
No, of course not.
Now, getting back to this bill, if the city wanted to see something on the port's property on Harbor Island other than industry that the port is allowed to do, then the port has a hurdle to overcome. And the hurdle is they're not allowed by state law to do that stuff. So you would have to, well, they have to get the bill themselves.
Right.
You would either have to help them out in some way to get that legislation passed. If you want to see the port, so that's your dilemma. Do you wish, what do you wish to see ultimately on Harbor Island? Maybe one day the port sells it and the new owner comes around and they are afforded other uses that the port in the navigation district isn't. So maybe it's a time issue. You just push it down the road and things change in 5 years, things change in 2 years.
How will these changes or adjusting or changing ordinances affect the agreement we got with our marina?
I think for the port, as long as for you to change the zoning uses of the port, if you were giving them additional uses, you wouldn't violate that agreement at all. The agreement would be violated if you attempted to
Change the ordinance.
Yeah, but the port, believe me, the port's not going to walk away from you guys wanting to grant them more uses.
Right.
Of in the lighter use category, commercial, retail, a marina basin, private marina basin, something like that, which can't be done right now.
Even if the bill passes, regardless of what decision we make tonight, whether we support or not, even if it passes, they are still limited to doing anything over there. Anybody is limited to doing
by our ordinance. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So even if port then by state legislation has the opportunity to become a developer, they're not going to be able to do that because we've already restricted it. Correct.
Well, there would be a lot of legal wrangling involved with, I think, the attorneys would have to jump in because you're going to have the port would claim, well, we could now it's now an allowable use for the port and the city shouldn't be interfering with allowable uses of the port. So we would, at that point, we would probably have conflicting, like right now, the city's zoning is in harmony with the port's uses. Right. There's not a conflict. I think what would happen is if the port was granted these new uses by the state, I think we would be bound to honor those uses. I don't think we could, just like, could we, and we were told this by our attorneys before, could we downgrade, downzone Harbor Island and take away industry? No, can't do it. That's the port's state given right to do that use. And we're never going to win attempting to take away the port's state given rights. So I think if the port did succeed in getting a bill passed, my belief would be that the city would have to adopt would have to modify its ordinances to match their uses, their allowable uses.
But for all of Harbor Island? Or just because the port would have these new special entitlements?
Just because the port would have, you would probably have something in there for port-owned property. These uses would apply. Right. You'd have to carve it out. You'd have to carve them out specially.
So where does this stand at the legislative level?
Around the coastal bend, it's received a lot of opposition.
Lots and lots.
Okay, yeah. So when does this go before?
Well, I mean, it's up there now. So, I mean,
are they voting on it now?
I'm not sure. I don't think this is in a committee anywhere yet yeah.
But one thing it does have is that the cities of Corpus Christi, which is not there anymore, Rostown and Port Aransas are in alignment.
No, that's an old letter, Joan.
So are
That's
we?
an old letter from Chairman Zahn to the Corpus Christi Regional Economic
So are
Development
we
Corporation.
listed in there in any way?
Well, that's an old draft letter.
No, I mean in the bill.
No, currently no.
So opting out doesn't make any sense. We just say we don't want to support it.
Well, if you opt out, opting out would mean you're telling the port to write us out of the bill. That's what you're telling them. If you guys vote to opt out, you're saying to the port, somewhere in your bill, there's language in there that carves out the city of Port Aransas. Right, so you guys are not in the bill, right? You guys say, hey, we want to opt out. Means we contact the port and we tell the port, hey, we want language in your bill that carves out Port Aransas from this bill. That's what the opting out motion would do. The other, some cities probably can't be carved out. I don't know if city of Corpus could be carved out of this. They're just so big. That's why they just said oppose.
Letter of opposition. To the
Yeah.
whole thing.
So.
Can we do both?
Well, you could say this: carve us out, opt us out, carve us out, or we will oppose the bill.
I like that.
You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Say carve us out, or we'll oppose the bill, or you could say, we don't care if you carve us out or not. We're going to oppose the bill, like a lot of the other regions. Or you could just say carve us out of the bill, please.
I just got a. This says here, the court is not submitting this legislation.
Great. Who said that?
It has not been submitted. Oasis County is now the one submitting the legislation.
Well, until it's dead, it doesn't hurt that you do it.
Right. I think we ought to do it anyway. I've heard that rumor too, but I don't know. Who knows? So I do think.
Last I heard from the port,
well, let's opt out.
Was that
I agree.
This bill wasn't entirely dead, and if we wanted to opt out, opt out.
Let's do it. That's the way I think.
I'd like to make a motion to opt out of the Port of Corpus Christi Authority's proposed legislation and
if we're not opted out, then opposition.
Opposition.
If you're not opted out, right? If they don't opt you out, then you oppose. What do you want to do? Well, I mean, otherwise you just oppose.
I want to opt out and oppose.
I guess you can do that too.
Sounds good to me.
I second.
Chairperson Moore,
Yes.
Councilmember Tallmeyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Mayor Breon.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we are now at where?
Item M.
Hold on a second.
Dinner's ready.
No, I'm getting updates on this all along.
That was just.
Item N.
Okay, now item N is a very similar bill that the county has now picked up.
Yep, exactly the same bill. Looks like.
Yeah.
It's very similar. There are some slight nuances in it that differ. If you read this one here, this is kind of the general whereases. The main whereas is that second paragraph. The proposed legislation would allow the port to develop port-owned land in the unincorporated areas of Nueces County, port-owned land inside the city limits of the city of Robstown, which is not us, nor is the incorporated area, or Nueces County land that is leased to the port. That could be us, could be some county land within the city of Port Aransas that could be leased to the port, or that the port has the right to develop or improve to stimulate economic development activities. Now, that sentence could be construed as that's Harbor Island port property. So I did discuss this with the county, with the judge, with Councilmember Chesney. You know, I did express, I said, you know, the big thing here is that, you know, I had council members that said, hey, what about the 100 acres at IB McGee? Could the county parcel that out of the IB McGee Park and possibly develop with the county? I said, well, and develop with the port. I said, yeah, they could probably do it with or without this bill. They could probably do something like that. Some of the park is zoned for commercial and residential uses, so it could be carved out. You know, I definitely advised them. I said, if council were to consider the county, you know, the county expressed interest that, hey, we could get valuable dollars from the port to help the rehabilitation of IB McGee. You know, they're going to have pier damage when they do a further inspection of the pier. It's about a $12 million project. Could be. It hasn't been determined yet. So there are some high dollar facilities within IB McGee that the county could partner with the port on. And so I said, well, if that's the case, you know, could you guys add a sentence on to that second whereas paragraph that said, within the city limits of Port Aransas, the only allowances would be for the port to be able to partner with the county on recreation and park facilities within IB McGee. So it would eliminate any kind of residential, industrial, any kind of other partnership on any other land, and it would strictly limit the Nueces counties partnering with the port for land that they own within the city, which is IB McGee, and it would be restricted to recreational and park facilities. So that was verbiage that they agreed to add on to the end of that second paragraph to give you guys comfort if the port and the county partnered up for county facilities in IB McGee Park, but nothing else.
This is backing up just a bit. The port is not submitting this legislation. It has not been submitted. Nueces County is now the one supporting the legislation. Corpus Christi just passed a resolution fully opposing the Nueces County legislation for Corpus Christi and everything in Corpus Christi ETJ.
Correct. Yeah.
It was a 6-2 vote against it. And
but again, they didn't have any kind of, you know, like the one sentence that the county did agree to add. If you looked at the Corpus bill, it was kind of more of an all or nothing. It was either they wanted the availability for the county to partner with the port or not. You know, they didn't carve out any particular land. So that there is a big difference in what the two bills are with the addition of that language.
For Port Aransas.
For Port Aransas. I mean, you guys are basically saying you're giving the county the opportunity to accept port development partnership, but you're restricting it to recreational and park facilities within IB McGee. So there is some comfort level there. I know here the downside, looking at it from council seats, is probably, you know, you got the region, the coastal bend's been beaten up on this legislature. You know, you're a member of the coastal bend communities, and you know, what's your guys' comfort level in you know, backing this bill or not voicing any opinion? I don't know what you guys would do. I mean, I don't think I don't think they're asking you to be cheerleaders. But again, you have the same options as the last bill. You can completely opt out. You can oppose. you could approve with that one, with the additional clause. I mean, so how do you guys feel? What's your?
Well, I think.
Let me read this last thing that just came in. This would include the park and Canales is looking for Nueces property to use as mitigation sites for industry.
Well, it's limited to park and recreation use, nothing else.
Within the city of Port Aransas.
You couldn't turn the park into a industrial waste pit. You know, you're limiting it to parks and recreational uses, and turning IB McGee into a waste mitigation site.
Well, yeah.
Or even a wetland mitigation site would probably not meet parks and recreation uses.
All that land over there is within IB McGee?
Yes.
That land that's not developed at all. That's
the maps we have show it as IB McGee Park.
Next to
but it really does,
because they wanted to do something there.
I think its designation is kind of irrelevant because the county commissioners could
change that. Exactly.
Do whatever they want to it.
Right. Well, I think the feeling is that this is just because so much pushback was against the port bill. Now this bill is taking up the slack, and they are putting in all the same thing, obviously, that the port bill had to try to help the port get this ability to buy land and build whatever they want to do on it, and do things that are not within the navigation regulation lines that they were originally set up. And also the navigation district, Port Aransas, the Port of Corpus Christi, is going through one of those, what do you call it, open, where it's their time this year where they're looking at them to see whether to continue support or not. What is that called? The where they do each different group within the state and look at them every 10 years or 5 years and see.
Oh, like a sunset review.
Sunset review. They're going through a sunset review now. So there's a lot of big things coming up to try to change the number of people on the commission, trying to broaden it to get more for San Patricio, trying to get some for Robstown. So there's a lot of things going on up there in the state now about the port. So there's a lot of pushback with them. And then this bill would kind of be a way to get this done through the county.
It says, I should have called you yesterday. There's much more going on.
I'm not comfortable supporting any bill without seeing the bill. I mean, that's my level of discomfort. I mean, I'm not opposed to the port wanting to help Nueces County improve the park. If Nueces County needs money and the port's willing to give it to make IB McGee Park better, I'm all for that, because right now it's a disaster and it's a black eye for the city of Port Aransas. And the average person who goes by thinks that it's us because they don't know that that part of the beach is owned by the park. I mean, the port, excuse me, Nueces County Parks.
I'm a support.
And I understand that they've struggled to get money, and it's a fight, right? I mean, we've got things that we still are trying to fix, right? And so I'm right. I'm in full support of the port or whoever giving Nueces County money to help improve the park for that purpose. But I'm not in support of approving a bill that I haven't even seen. I mean, what we've been given is a bunch of redacted, written papers.
Well, and I also think that if the port wants to help the Nueces County, they can help. They don't have to have a bill to help them. I mean, they've been putting money into a lot of stuff. So that's not, to me, I don't understand why this is, I don't think that's a tie-in. I think that they could help them if they wanted to help them. Give them money.
Whatever you guys want to do.
So we don't really have to do any action. This is this item is a discussion, correct? I mean,
it's discuss and take action.
We can take action.
I mean, this thing's going to go forward.
But again, I mean, what do we have to review other than a resolution that Nueces County says that they support the port, or the port passed a resolution that they support Nueces County's efforts? I mean, I'm all for saying that, we don't support it or we want to opt out or whatever, but we don't even have anything to opt out.
So that I think it's clear.
Well, we cannot support We cannot support the idea.
Yeah.
That they're trying to do.
In other words, nothing's happened and we're just spinning our wheels on it.
Well, I don't know what they use, but of course, the city of Corpus Christi, I talked with Greg Smith, and he said they were 6-2 against the county bill, coming out against that bill. So whether they probably see the same thing we do, I guess. So I would be
Yeah, I
in
mean,
favor
they
of,
looked at the same thing you guys have.
I would like to oppose that bill myself.
You gotta do
Make
whatever
a-
you want, I don't care.
We'll make a motion that we opt out
And oppose.
and oppose the 2021 legislation for Nueces County owned land.
Second that.
Second,
Joan did.
Second.
okay, call the roll.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Crawford,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Leon.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item is,
More politics.
more politics,
Item N.
item N.
It's Dave's turn.
All right, presentation of legislative issues. Again, still tracking, it's still early in the game. Todd and all the coastal counties and coastal representatives, senators, all fighting a lot of TWIA bills. So we're watching that close. Todd's definitely on his game. So he's in front of all the TWIA stuff and the Texas Windstorm Association issues. Some of the miscellaneous bills coming out. Some of the anti-city stuff that's still working its way in. You know, a lot of this stuff isn't even in committees yet, but the anti-lobbying bill we're watching closely with TML. There's a couple dune permitting interesting beach bills coming out of the Mays Middleton, the representative in the East Houston, Galveston, West Galveston beach area. That are kind of in line with the Texas Open Beaches Act, getting kind of beat up remember the severance issue where the state Supreme Court said you can't own the beach in Texas, and if your home's left on the beach after a storm,
Forget it.
no one has the right to move your home. So it's kind of in line with that. Basically, what this Middleton bill says is that if you have a hurricane and the beach gets wiped out, a city or a municipality cannot just come on your land and rebuild your dunes without you first agreeing to it and giving the city or municipality or the county a easement to rebuild those dunes. And so which maybe it's not a bad thing, because south of the Aransas Princess, everyone has ownership to the high water mark. So basically, what Middleton's bill is saying is that we're not going to restore your beach and let you then just say you own the beach again. If the city or state or county comes in and rebuilds your beach, you're going to give us easements, and then it will be a state beach. So a little trickery there, but so we're watching that one. Not sure how far that'll go. There's a lot of course, it seems that every year or every session, the four-wheelers and all the new, the UTVs and the everything's getting less and less restrictive on the use of ATVs, golf carts. So there's a whole bunch of more stuff coming down about, how you cannot be restrictive against them. So we'll see how those go. So just still watching. Haven't had a need to set up a trip to Austin yet. So maybe in the next couple months they're coming. And the mayor and I I'll have to squeeze into my suit because it's.
Oh no.
Squeeze into mine. I have to buy a new one.
I think you could buy a new one too.
I'm like a teenager now.
So no Port A day recognition.
No, I don't, right now, Beth, they're still in kind of, I mean, they are opening some things up, but they're really putting the squeeze on that kind of stuff this session.
They're doing more Zoom stuff too.
Yeah.
With people coming.
I don't know lately, but I know about a month ago at the last meeting, you were having to go into a Capitol and do a rapid test. And I mean, it was kind of pretty strict and stuff. So all that kind of, Port A day stuff, it's all on hold.
But Kendall's doing an internship with.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
With who?
With Hunter. Kendall is.
Great.
And that's what she said. Every time she goes to Capitol every Wednesday, and they do the rapid test, and they put her in a holding for 15 minutes until the test gets back.
Well, that is great. Beth. Great, Beth.
Yeah, she's really, really, really enjoying it. Mr. Hunter has her very busy, and it's a good thing.
Are you going to talk about more?
No, that was it.
Well, that seems like there's still a whole bunch against city zoning, city ordinances, all kinds of things that trying to control the ability of cities to govern.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing to me.
Yeah. And like the Airbnb things coming back again, and the basically where they say you can't have R1 zoning.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as short-term and long-term zones. It's if it involves people sleeping, cooking, eating, going to the bathroom, and showering, we shouldn't be involved in the duration of the days.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I looked at the list of things. It was scary, and all the stuff for police and safety. And
oh yeah,
yeah.
Jump on the. I urge you guys again. Just jump on that TML site, and they try to keep it updated. But there's so much I can't even print it out for you guys. It's like.
Is there any way to know what happens within it? They said only about 1/10 of them.
You have to write down the ones you're interested in, and you just have to track them.
I know. So Dave, just question, because I am interested, because remember they've been trying to do that. I think this is the third year, the short-term rentals, the VRBO, and trying to take away where they have the right to, even if it's zoned no short term, that they can, this is that kind of bill, right? So like hypothetically, Channel Vista does not have a HOA. So if this bill went into effect, no matter what the city says, it would override it. Is that correct?
Yeah, Channel Vista would become a short-term rental.
But the HOA is still okay.
HOA can stop it as long as the HOA is intact.
Yeah.
And current on all its. The best way to track something, Joan, is like, for example, you can go to Representative Hunter's webpage, his official, and then you can go to his bills. They'll be, and it's the same for senators and representatives. Right at the very top of their webpage, it'll be their picture, and it'll be sponsored and co-sponsored bills. So find out who wrote the bill you're interested. Go to that person's webpage, and then go down to click on sponsored bills or co-authored bills, and their 20 to 50 bills come up that person's, and then click on it, and then it'll take you to the legislative page that tracks that bill, and you can see what actions taken, what are the next actions. You can see the bill in PDF or Word document, and you could see where it's going, what happened at the last meeting, is it in committee? So that's the best way to do it, is just to track the bill that way.
Okay.
And to clarify, Channel Vista has covenants which would still be overridden if this bill passed, correct?
I don't know. I think what Nicole told me, Nicole lives there too. I think they don't have the proper HOA credentials to override that bill.
Correct.
But TML is fighting it. So
they form an HOA?
there's a lot of people fighting that bill. A lot of communities. I mean, almost every city fights it. It has a lot of opposition.
And is it TML they're trying to get rid of
TML
too? I mean, they were talking about
Well,
no
we're trying
lobbying
to-
and no
yeah,
groups
yeah,
that lobby for you?
Yeah, no, that a city can't expend funds on a lobbyist. Oh, a new interesting one was, it's a criminal act for a former legislature to lobby. That's another one that's out.
That'll get you go.
So that's a bad one too.
Ever.
So, anyway, that's a good way to track them. Just go to their web pages and.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Next item, that'd be you, Darla.
It's so nice to see Darla.
Darla's looking really good.
Thank you. Feeling
Yeah,
good.
she does. Looks great.
Good, Liz.
Feeling good. Got a clean skin, so I'm good.
Oh, awesome.
You have the written report, just to go over a few of the economic indicators. We're still doing really well for the first 5 months. Now we're 5 months into the fiscal year. Hotel motel tax was at 66% for the month. For the first 5 months, we're up 109% compared to last year. Our sales tax was up about 3%, so we're at 26% for the first 5 months. Harbor, the quarterly rentals were at 23%, transients down 7%. Beach permit sales, just because that kind of tracks people coming in, we're up about 10% compared to last year. And that's about it. I can add short-term rentals to the reports though, if y'all want to see those registrations compared to what they were. I'm sure we can come up with some type of format that might be helpful.
That'd be good.
We can do that.
Question, Darla, on the beach fund, so, you know, the hotel motel taxes, you know, revenues, it's actually down from this time last year. Just curious, because I know the then comes up, but in reference to
The state has changed the way they're paying us now. They used to pay us quarterly on that because our hotel motel tax for the most part is state. We don't use any of the local hotel tax anymore for the beach fund because we get the 2% rebate from the state. When COVID happened, the state has started paying us monthly for things such as hotel motel tax and stuff. So we just may not have caught up with that quarter.
Okay.
But I'd have to look, but that's the main, we're not really comparing apples to apples yet till we get a year into that.
Okay, that's what I thought. So
But is that-
109%. I'm like,
Is that based on the state hotel motel tax and not our hotel motel tax?
Right.
So it may not be as good throughout the whole state.
Well, no. It's just this is what the state collects for city of Port
Locally, yeah,
Aransas.
okay.
Yeah, we only get 2% of the
Of what
state's
they
portion
collect.
of our local hotel motel tax back. Now, we require everybody to pay on a monthly basis. The state does allow some smaller taxpayers to pay on a quarterly basis. So it's just, I'm thinking it's probably a timing issue.
and the winter
Since you're paying
storm
us monthly.
account, the winter storm account, I guess that's just from obviously the freeze.
It is. We
Oh, it's
originally set it up for Hurricane Hannah, but we really didn't have expenses with Hurricane Hannah. So I changed it to winter storm because we are going to have expenses and reimbursement
That's what, okay.
from that. And I think unlike what happened with Hannah is it wasn't a big enough storm to justify permanent work from FEMA for things that happened that to infrastructure, they only had emergency preparedness and we didn't have any of that. So since the winter storm is statewide, I think it's going to hit the FEMA levels to get permanent work and the emergency preparedness. All of our bills haven't come in yet for what we ran on the shelter yet though. So there is going to be more expense there. And we've also, the CARES Act kicked in again and has an allocation, a second allocation for cities in there. So our expenses for these shot clinics and some of the different things we're doing should be able to be covered.
Oh.
What about that gas line they had to mess with? Is that part of that?
Yes, the
one
the
at
gas
Allen Lawrence.
line, when they had to stay out there 24/7, a lot of that was still as a result of Harvey. And so most of that reimbursement, we're probably going to be fitting under Harvey PW that we still have open for emergency preparedness. Because that was caused by Harvey. So that's where we're going to try to route that.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, it should get reimbursed. Anybody has any
I
questions?
appreciated those guys doing that. My goodness, that was
What about the gas bills?
Well, and I was going to bring that up, and I thought.
Because it's auto debiting from my account in a couple of days. I just need to know if I need to make a big transfer for my gas bill.
No, two things on the gas bill. One, what we reported to you last month was an estimate on what our gas purchase was going to be. We actually got the bill last week and they adjusted our price. And they have not done that to other cities that we have heard.
Cross your fingers.
We are paying it now. You know, it was $400 an hour MCF one day, and they actually only charged us $8 an hour.
Ooh,
and there were 3 days that they were charging us right at $182 an hour, and they charged us the $8 an hour. So our bill's looking pretty good. That should help our bills next month for our consumers with the gas price adjustment. Since we did not read meters last month, because they couldn't, because they were supposed to read the week of the freeze. Our clerk, when she got the readings yesterday, she tried to average them out between the 2 months, and hopefully nobody's bill is going to be hit too hard. But we tried to split it in between this month and next month, so I think we're going to be pretty much okay.
It's still going to be a little different though than a normal bill.
It's still going to be a little different than a normal bill. I think next month, the gas price adjustment is going to be higher than normal, but it's not going to be the extravagant.
Not going to be $300.
What we expected. And we're having to stay that way. We haven't heard anything else from the provider.
That's great.
So.
That's great.
It was very good news. We had estimated the bill to be $650,000, and it was $64,000, which last year's was $37,000. So it's about
twice as much.
But we also had more gas usage than we would have had.
Oh yeah, yeah. We used a lot of gas.
It was definitely
in that period.
In line.
Yeah.
Compared to what we thought it was going to be. So
yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi again.
Hi again. Well, other than the snowvid apocalypse last month, it was a pretty uneventful month for us. You got your stats there in front of you if you have any questions on that. I did want to point out in the middle of the blackout ice storm that we had a panic phone call in the middle of the night. One of our younger rookier dispatchers was able to calm the caller down enough to find out where the emergency was. And we dispatched an officer over there, and it turned out that they had set up a generator in the garage, and one of the household members had gone down to check on the generator, and there was so much carbon monoxide in the garage that he was knocked unconscious almost immediately. And then his significant other went down to check on him and met a similar fate and fell up against the generator. Luckily, the officers got there in time, and he said, his first instinct was to hit the button and get the garage door open, but there was no power. So he stood up on a chair and was able to manually open the garage door and evacuate both people. And the woman has received a skin graft the other day from her burns from laying against the generator, but she survived, and her significant other also survived, and it was entirely because of the good work of that dispatcher and officer.
No, that's great. So, I'm surprised you didn't have more of that, really.
The officer was treated at the scene for carbon monoxide exposure, but didn't need to be need to be transported. So good shout out to Officer Flores and Sierra Nichols, our dispatcher there. We're in the middle of spring break now. If you all haven't been down to the beach, I promise you it's not like it was 3 or 4 years ago. I would encourage you to make a trip down there.
I haven't been at all.
You'll be safe.
It's very family right now.
Very family dominated. We do have a couple small groups of youths that are gathering.
And 4-day kids all showed up tonight.
So, but we're not allowing the stages and the big gathering areas that we have in years past. And it's really made a huge difference. And I think Port Aransas is rapidly going to become known as the family safe destination. Good place to bring your families, and there's always going to be room for a few people to party responsibly, but it's never going to get like the chaos it was, pre-Harvey. So.
Well, I think the police presence helps. Every time I saw any picture on Facebook, there was a police car somewhere in that picture.
And we try to. So.
Makes a difference,
Well, you guys do a great job, Chief. And I will tell you, I had one of my, somebody I know who has a home here, and they watched the news, and they were very complimentary of you being on the news. I don't know which night it was, I guess last week, maybe one of the news stations did a little preview of what's going to happen, Chief Burrows. And they said that you did a fabulous job, and that
fantastic.
yeah, they were very impressed, and they, and they have families and things like that, and that they just love the fact that that's what Port Aransas is promoting, and I think it's great. It is. It's a difference. It's a big difference, right? And so, families, those type of crowds tend to spend more money here, which is important for our community. So.
And Shannon, did you go?
I did.
I saw your
I
picture.
did. That was thank you so much for having me on.
You had your
That
first
was
police ride-along?
my second
Oh, your
one.
second one.
But
Good.
it was, that's why I noticed the big difference between the year before. Although we had COVID and everyone was up in arms and elections and everything else, this year, just the whole feeling down there was having fun. Everyone was just having fun. I didn't see a huge amount of garbage, and I didn't see too many fights, and everyone seemed to be just
I'll tell you
having
how
a
big
good time.
the change
So.
is. Last Saturday night, the Texas Highway Patrol had 0 arrests on us the crossover Saturday.
Wow.
That makes me so happy, because the first year, Wendy and I, 6 years ago, went on a ride along with you, and oh my goodness gracious. And, and I know, talking to all our employees in our staff, we are seeing so many families, and I love that Port Aransas has become a family destination. It's always, good with spring breakers, of course, the college kids, but that it's mostly the families that are here.
Well, I know it's not like the 2017 riots that we saw down there, although I still remember the chief making a tackle.
Who did you tackle?
They were all the sandhills. It was just
The Dean?
a riot.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, the Joan Jett concert.
It's in next week.
Thanks.
All right, what do we got next? EMS.
Evening, Mayor, evening, Council. Just piggybacking off that chief's report, I think that family mix, we're definitely seeing it in the EMS department. We had a few youthful incidences that we have every year, involving the drinking and the drugs, but definitely reduced year after year over the last couple of years. And so we were real conservative with our staffing, just running normal operations during the week. And last weekend, keeping ourselves flexible, we ended up cutting our extra truck early on Sunday, mostly due to the weather. But we're just being flexible and definitely seeing the effects on the EMS operations. These family mix definitely tends to play a little safer and play a little smoother. So it has been good for us. And I think we touched base already on the vaccination update. I think one thing we're going to do, we're getting a lot of calls about people concerned about their second shot. So we may add some information onto the website just so people are clear that once they get their first dose, they're kind of already in the system. And that by that point, it takes it out of our hands. and they get alerted by the system when the second dose becomes available, and it should help alleviate some of the, I know a lot of people have anxiety about when and where they'll get their second shot. And for the most part, we're kind of in the dark as much as they are until we get notification, from the powers that be. So we'll improve our communication on that end to do that. And I did want to say that we're pushing hard in our department to up our training. We had some of our employees show interest in becoming CPR certified instructors. That's something that we haven't been able to do in the past because you have to, especially through the American Heart Association, you have to have sponsorship. And this year, Driscoll was taking on some new instructors. So we now have 6 employees who are certified American Heart instructors. And so our hope is to become the instructors for anyone in the city, especially our staff who require that. And we can do that at a greatly reduced cost and be able to do it in-house. And hopefully in the future, as we open back up and start holding some community classes and getting back to what we were doing before, CPR and Stop the Bleed, and what other health related things that we can do, because we have the staff, we have the equipment, and it just makes sense.
No, it would be great. Just to step in here real quick for you. How early do you think you could hold like a community class? Because I know, in many restaurants and stuff, to have at least 1 or 2 people certified in CPR would be great, and hotels. And, back in the day, years ago, I know it's been a while, they would hold those kind of classes.
Yeah.
And that would be just great for our local businesses before, summer hits.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're ready to go. So as you've opened things up, we can start scheduling stuff in April, get the word out, and maybe start doing those monthly or bi-monthly. And CPR is a big step for some people, but again, it includes the hands-on CPR, which is definitely more layman's. And just in general, like the Heimlich maneuver training and stuff, it's different when you just see the chart at the restaurant, but actually have some guided instruction and some, when to act kind of stuff. And that's definitely something I think is that we can definitely begin implementing soon.
Great job.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Any council comments?
Just one more quick thing. I'm sorry. The vaccine. So is it just Nueces County that you're waiting to? Is there other entities out there like Driscoll that may be able to get you vaccines to be able to vaccinate the ones that didn't get to even have their first dose yet?
Sure, I understand. The counties is basically our partner as far as they're actually getting supply from Spawn. So they're out there looking for vaccine, looking for distribution. So Spawn was able to get some a supply, and they're getting it through Spawn. So yeah, we're doing everything we can as far as to get it directed towards us. And of course, anytime that we see another local area event that may offer the vaccine, we try to get that information out there as well. But so we're doing what we can, and like I said, we owe a lot to the county judge and of course Mr. Chesney in helping us get this implemented and moving forward.
No, absolutely. And do you feel like y'all didn't have that much time to get the word out on the vaccine? Did you feel that the way y'all did it in the survey that we got the people that were more directed to who were needing that vaccine?
Yes, I mean we rely a lot on the honesty of those that we survey, but that was the key thing, was to target the 1B, especially at the time that we were implementing it, to get those that were most vulnerable. And of course, we'll still do that, even though the guideline is kind of relaxed a little bit. Now they're taking anyone over 50. We're still, of course, going to try to get those that are most vulnerable at the front of the line, and at the end of the day, when we start having, we have dosages that are, we try to plan to get as many people out there as we can, without, without being an inconvenience, but we ended up getting 50 additional doses by the end of the day. So at that point, we were kind of calling whoever we needed to call, whoever was available, ready to be, hey, come down, to make sure we didn't have any doses left on the table, so to speak. So.
No, that was great news to hear that y'all got more than the 500.
And so it is going to be a short notice thing because as they get word of shipment, there's not a lot of time to time they receive it and when they want us to give it. So it's going to be a short term notice thing, but we've been able to deploy, so to speak, rather rapidly, and it really helped. We had a lot of volunteers from the community assist us with vaccinating, and just all the departments working together to make it work.
Yeah, I heard it went very, very well, except of course we'd have the cold front weather coming that day.
Kudos to those guys. I mean, in the wet, cold rain, they were chugging without any complaints. So we're just happy to be able to supply, be able to do it.
Well, thank you for what you do and everyone on your staff and all the volunteers and everything.
Thank you. I'll pass it along.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Edward.
You'll have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If hearing none, we are adjourned.
Goodbye, everyone.